Hey everybody, it's Charles Mark's Jewelry Company. I'm here with my guest Marco Cruz, and we're talking about financial reset. And you might be wondering, what is financial reset? And I think to make a long story short, being that I do jewelry, diamonds, gold, silver, bullion, I get a wide range of people in my sphere. Okay, and usually they have a lot more knowledge about different things that are going on than I do, and occasionally we'll make a connection and have a good friendship, you know, and I get to learn about different things. And what's going on right now with regard to the money, the dollar, the value of the dollar, and all the above, is got everybody scratching their head, you know, and people are buying silver like never before, almost out of reflex. We don't know why we need to do it. We know we need to do it. And so my friend Marco came to me out of the blue, looking for some gold to buy back in the spring. And you know, if the IRS is watching, I don't want them knowing how much gold you bought. But long story short, we got to talking about things, and I kind of feel like this: if I know something, I need to share it with you, or I'm not your friend. Okay? I am no way, shape, or form capable of giving financial advice. I'm just sharing with you inside information, and we're going to have a little discussion with Marco about this, and he's got a lot of expertise, knowledge, and I'm going to quit talking about me, because you guys are probably ready for me to quit talking about me. So Marco, you worked for a major bank?
Yes.
Is it okay to say which one or no?
Well, I actually work for all the major banks that you can think of. So either one is probably going to.
Okay.
Probably
So
was.
you are a high level analyst.
I was. I started from the bottom and I went up. So I guess you can say to some level.
He was a high level analyst. Okay, he's humble, but whatever. Okay, so when a bill would get passed, you would have to read it, all 2,000 pages, digest it, you know.
That's how I got in the habit of reading bills, because part of the training we have is basically to be familiar with bills, as we were into banking and lending through the banking system. And there's a big difference between different banks. Meaning the credit union and a big bank, they have different capabilities. And the bigger the bank, the more likely they are going to be held accountable, and they're more under the microscope. So they do extensive training for people like myself. And these particular big banks, what they do is that they train us and they test us. And in many positions in the bank, if we, let's say, don't pass the test, if we're not knowledgeable enough, then we are not allowed to do the function or the job that we're supposed to do. So that's how I got started with reading bills. And then I discovered other things, that reading bills is actually a good thing. Everybody should do it. It's not that hard.
I'll let you read it. I'll buy you lunch. You can break it down for me. But you speak several languages?
Yes. I'm originally from Cancun, Mexico. And since I was a kid, I was that kid that always looked to the horizon. And I always wanted to know what was behind the horizon. So I couldn't wait until I was old enough to be on my own, so I could go and explore and fly and just basically see what's behind the horizon. So as soon as I finished school, my dad wanted me to follow into his steps, and my background basically is I come from a big family, middle class family. We had, just like most of you, we had our good times, bad times, and just because it comes with the entrepreneurial aspect of it. And my dad's side of the family, they're all entrepreneurs. There are 11 brothers and sisters, and every one of them was in business for themselves, whether they were small self-employed or they had a little company, they all were in business. So when I finished school, at the time my dad had 4 restaurants, a distributing company, and basically he was a pretty busy man. So it was natural for me to follow into his steps, and I opened my first restaurant. And it turned out that it was pretty successful. It was a small one, it wasn't a big deal, it was in Cancun, and it was called the Onion, or in Spanish, La Cebolla, because Mexicans eat grilled onion. But long story short, it took about a year, and then I figured out that that's not what I wanted to do.
What I wanted to get to was that because of your experience and bilingual,
Yes.
The bank would send you to Wall Street
Well, yes.
to explain to
absolutely.
New York, to explain to the people up there
Yes.
the different things that the research
Yes.
team had concluded, the results of the bills and everything.
Absolutely, yes. So after I closed this restaurant, I decided to move to other countries to follow my dream as a young person that I was at the time. And I lived in different places like Latin America and Venezuela, and I ended up here later on, which is where I am now. And I ended up working for the banking industry, and they would send me to New York to do presentations and to try to get business for the company. So that's how I got into the banking system, and that's how I started to learn what the fractional reserve system or the fractional monetary reserve system that we have today. And that's what enabled me to put all the pieces together that I had learned since I was a kid. And why I told you that long story about where I come from is because I have seen both sides. I have seen the entrepreneurial, I have seen the employee side. I come from the middle class, so I see the struggles as I lived through them as I was a kid, and we had good times and then we had bad times too. So when I lived, for instance, in Venezuela, that's when I experienced delusion or a reset per se. I experienced a reset in Mexico, and I think we're seeing it here today. So
let me frame it real quick. So what I want to do is I want to kind of give a take from somebody who's lived through 2 resets. Okay, what does that look like? What is the reality of a reset? And then after we talk about that, let's talk a little bit about what situation we have here that makes the reset a foregone conclusion and a fact of reality for us.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we'll go backwards first, you know what I mean?
Yes. So at this point, I'm going to pause a little bit here.
Please.
And I'm going to tell everybody that I'm not an accountant, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a financial advisor, and anything I say here today is just for education and entertainment. I'm not suggesting that anyone here does anything or giving you any advice to buy or spend your money doing whatever. I'm trying to share my story to empower others and for you hopefully to start asking questions. How can I do this? How can I prepare for this? So yes, I lived through these experiences when I was really young, when I didn't even understand what the word financing was. So don't feel bad that if you're not as familiar with some of these concepts, because at the end of the day, they're really not that difficult once you know what they are. You will find out that the industry comes up with very fancy wording to refer to derivatives or mortgage-backed securities, just basically to confuse us. So we just leave them alone. And the idea of this is to empower you so you could, with the help of Charles, come up to your own conclusion and make your own decisions. And here's where Charles is here to help you make those important decisions for you. And that's why I'm honored that he invited me, because we had other conversations starting back in March. And I'm a believer that you attract good people, good people attract good people. And at the time I was in need, personally, I was in need to get the guidance from someone I could trust. And I met Mark, Charles.
Everybody does it.
Yeah. I met Charles back then, and we instantly clicked because he had the pieces of information that I was missing, and I had some pieces that he was starving for. So we connected the dots. We basically exchanged ideas. We had very long conversations on the phone, and so basically we want to share with you this information so you can run with it. So going back to your question.
What's a reset like?
What's
the
a
reality?
reset like? Okay.
Yeah. Tomorrow, we wake up, it's a reset.
Okay.
Boom. What is that like?
So the first thing is, in my experience, what we don't know is basically what gives us anxiety, and it stresses us out. So when somebody jumps in a pool and you don't know how to swim, well, you're gonna have a terrible time. You're gonna be panicking. But if you know how to swim, are you worried? No. Does that mean you want to be left behind in the middle of the ocean? Absolutely not. But if you are left in the ocean, then at least you know what to do. You know how to swim, you know how to preserve your energy and all that stuff. So this is what we're doing right now. So I want to give you this message. Yes, this is going to sound a little scary in the beginning, but that's why you're here watching this video, because there are things you can do to prepare for that moment, if that moment should happen. Do I wish for that to happen? No. But the reality is that many countries around the world have gone through this process, and not knowing or not being prepared is not exactly a good thing, because many times we look back, or you think for yourself, how many times have you looked back and say, oh, I wish I had known this. I wish my friend would have told me this when the last time we spoke, or my brother knew something, he never shared it with me, and if I had known that, I would have done things differently. So there are things that we can do today so this so-called reset impact us. And what I used to call, and I call still reset, is basically when a country goes bankrupt. The fancy word being used today is reset, and it comes from Cruz, I think that's the way it's pronounced. It's a European gentleman that is in charge of the Davos economic meeting in Europe. And every year, the different countries and the leaders of the world, they meet. And in the last one, he shocked all of us, including me, because he spoke about the global reset. And what that means is this. First thing, before I explain what that is, we need to understand one thing. We need to understand that this is not money. And a lot of people think that this is money, but it's not. So the more you have this saved, the more likely it is for you to lose it, even if you have it under your mattress or in the safety box. What do I mean by that? A lot of people don't know that this is basically an IOU. It's a loan. So if you look at any bill, you'll see that it's either printed by the Federal Reserve or the Treasury.
Here, hand one to Megan and she'll get a close-up.
This is a $100 bill, and she'll probably be able to put it on the camera.
This is my money, so don't rip it up or get cute, you know.
I'm gonna try to keep this one here.
This is my not money. I do care about it.
So if you have a bill near you, pull it out and you'll see there's a fine writing that says, for instance, this one is a $100 bill, and it says, this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. So basically what this is it's not different from me writing on a piece of paper, hey Charles, give me one of these rings that you sell here. I'll give you a piece of paper with my name on it, where I'm promising you I'm gonna pay you for this ring one day. And I have my shop, let's say I sell
Cars.
I sell cars. And one day Charles comes with that piece of paper I gave him for a $15,000 ring, and he says, hey Marco, I'm here to collect my real money. But I was thinking that instead of collecting money, maybe you can give me a car in exchange for the piece of paper that you gave me. And if I happen to have a $15,000 car at the time, then I'll just give him the key, I'll take that piece of paper back, and then he drives off the lot with the car. So that's really all this is. This is just a promise that I'm going to pay you later. The difference is that this is given to us by the Treasury, which is the government, the government, the president, basically. And if it says Federal Reserve, then it's given to us by the Federal Reserve, which is supposed to be independent from the government. So we have two entities, the Federal Reserve and the Treasury. Treasury is government, the Federal Reserve is not.
Marco.
But they give it to us.
Very smart.
Oh, I have to put it in
Talking over my head a little.
Okay.
But the question is, if we can, and then we'll get to the gold and the silver and everything too. Like we were talking the other day, you said you wake up, the reset happens, you go to the grocery store in a panic.
Right.
What is that? What is that reality?
So what happens is when governments print this too much, and they don't pay it back. And that's why I gave you the example of Mark. So if I start writing little piece of paper and I gave some to Mark and some to John and some to Mary, and I start giving them to other people, eventually these people are going to get nervous. And when they start talking, when people start talking and they start noticing that Mark is giving them a lot of paper, eventually one of them is going to come and try to give me the money back or the paper back so I can give them something tangible. So when that happens, everybody comes at the same time trying to get something from me. But if I only have 3 cards, only 3 people get the card, and then that's when I go bankrupt. So what does that mean, to answer your question, when you wake up? So let me tell you what happened the first time this happened to me. That was let's talk about the Mexican peso. So one morning, I wake up and I hear the Mexican president saying, it's on TV on the news, and he's saying, my fellow, in this case Mexicans, these are tough times. You know, the country's going through a tough time and we'll get through this. We have done this before. You know, Mexican people are good, we're all good, we'll get through this. And basically, we're gonna come up with another money, another coin, another bill. You still have the old ones, but you'll have a new one. So it left me confused just like you are right now. So what does that mean? What that means is that they're replacing the old dollars, or in this case pesos, with new pesos. And they do a conversion. The fancy name is a reverse split. What that means is that they take 1,000 old pesos.
Reverse split, okay.
And they convert it into one single new peso. So if you were to see those bills printed in Mexico at the time, they were not very creative. They called them pesos. They just added the word new in front of it. And the bill was exactly the same, but instead of saying just pesos, it said new pesos. So you'll have a $1,000 peso over here bill, and then you had one new peso over here. So 1,000 was the same as one new peso. So people still didn't really understand it when they saw it on TV, just like I did. At the time, I was gonna pay cash for a 3-story home, concrete, pretty big size for me, and I was gonna pay cash for it. So let's say I had about 350,000 pesos at the time to pay cash for it. I was within 2 weeks from closing on this house in Cancun. And when the closing day came up, I got a call from the builder office because it was a newly built home. And they asked me to give them proof of funds, which I was totally comfortable because I had that money in the bank. So I went there and I showed them. And at the time I was in my early 20s, I wasn't really savvy with finances. I was savvy, but I didn't understand the global economy. So I showed them my bank statement, and the adult people who were about my age now, they just looked at each other, and I can tell that they couldn't bring themselves to tell me and break my heart. So instead what they did, finally one day she said to me, son, you may want to go to your bank and speak to your banker so they can explain what's happening here. And that's when I really got chills in my body, because they were not impressed with my bank statement. And the way they spoke to me was a little eerie. And when they told me to go to the bank and speak to my banker, that's when I started to get scared, because I had saved a lot of money to buy this house cash. So think of a 3-story home here with multiple bedrooms and bathrooms, and you want to pay cash for it, and something bad happened, but you just don't know. So I calm myself down. I try not to be emotional about things like this. So I decided to go to the bank. But on the way there, I stopped by the grocery store to get me a drink. I don't know, let's just say a soda. And everybody, not just here, in every country, when something bad happens, even when they don't understand it, everybody runs to the grocery store and buys milk. Mexico's no different, Venezuela's no different. We're humans, we're all the same at the end of the day. So I went to the grocery store and I saw big lines at the cashier of people with 2 carts filled up with food and stuff for home. And I saw from one register to another, people were yelling at the cashier because they didn't understand what was happening. And what was happening is the cashier was trying to explain to people that people didn't have enough money to pay for the groceries. But when you think you have $1,000 in your bank account and you show up with 2 carts of groceries to the grocery store and try to pay, and they tell you don't have enough, you don't understand. So the cashier is trying to tell you, you have $1,000, but these are the old dollars, which is now $1 new. So you're trying to use $1 to pay for groceries in 2 grocery carts full of food. And unfortunately, these cashiers were the ones that had to deliver the bad news. And I would hate to have been one of those cashiers because, first of all, they don't make enough money to do that. And the message was not delivered the proper way because that's sometimes what politicians do. And people were very frustrated at that time. So I decided to put my drink back because I didn't want to wait in line and I didn't want to deal with it. But at that point, I understood what was going on. So I went to the bank to talk to my banker anyway. And there were people all over the bank, outside, inside. Basically, the bank was flooded with people, every bank. So at that point, I just had enough of that day, and I just went home and I figured I'll just wait it out. And when things calm down, I'll dig in. That was the day that I decided that I wanted to know. I decided that I was not going to let that happen to me again because I had worked hard. I had made my money. We all put in or labor or sweat into earning what we call our money. And the way it was stolen or taken away, it didn't feel fair to me. It wasn't fair to me. But at the same time, because I didn't educate myself, I had to take responsibility that it was nobody's fault but mine. Had I understood what this was, then I probably would not have sat on so much cash. Now, the way the Mexican reset happened was contained within Mexico only. The way it happened in Venezuela was contained within Venezuela. But this one here, because the United States is the reserve of the world, is probably going to be bigger.
All right. So Megan's about to start crying.
I'm not.
Marco's got me kind of scared.
Oh my God.
So I just want to kind of hit a little thing here. Not a theory.
Nope.
It's a fact.
Yep.
Happened more than once. You lived through it. You've got the scars.
I have the scar in my tummy. I won't show it to you, but I have it.
And things are starting to remind you of this.
Yes.
It's looking familiar.
Yes, it's looking familiar.
This is okay. So I just wanted to just kind of say, this isn't a theory. This isn't a guess. This happened more than once, and our guest has lived through it 2 times. And being a veteran of the banking industry, knows to the gnat's ass what's going on, where the bodies are buried, and that's why we're having this discussion.
Right.
Okay.
So because I didn't want this to happen to me, I started to pay attention to these things. And when I tell you, as ugly as it sounds, and it can be, I want to leave you with a little bit of hope that there's a lot of things you can do so this doesn't happen to you, or so you can minimize the damage. Can we stop it? No. Can we change the world? Probably not. But can you change your world? Can you make your world in your home a better one? Absolutely. So as much as I'm scaring Charles here because he's the only one scared, I know you guys are not. But as much as this may sound scary, I just want you to know that I'm not here to scare you. I want you to know that it's okay. You can do a few things to protect yourself, to take care of your family, and to weather the storm. So,
but you were getting ready to talk about the dollar reserve currency and
Yes.
what makes this a little bit different than Venezuela and Mexico.
yes.
I guess it's because
Okay.
it's going to be a global.
Okay. So I tend to speak too much sometimes, but there's one thing that I want to explain so we understand this better, so we can talk about what we can do. So a dollar, think of it as a pizza, okay? So a dollar, or a peso, or a bolivar, which is from Venezuela, a sol from Peru, it doesn't matter what we call it. This is a dollar. So think of it as a pizza. And the government says, you know what, I need to spend money on something. And let me just backtrack a little bit. This is not money, this is currency. This is currency. So the one exercise you may want to do at home is think of this as currency, just a paper where somebody's promising you to take this dollar back or to pay you back. This is not money. Gold, which is what Mark has here, this gold coin is 1 ounce. This is money. This is money, and silver is also money. Now, one thing I learned that is in the Constitution, in the U.S. Constitution, the U.S. Constitution recognizes these two as money. This is actually unconstitutional. And this is something that really threw me off because the founding fathers were against this. They were against central bank. But I don't want to sidetrack myself from this. I just want you to differentiate for now that this is money and this is currency. Very different things. So currency is a pizza. So if I want money to spend, I have to create this pizza, and let's say I make 4 slices out of it. So 4 slices, 1/4 each slice. And then I say to Mark, hey Mark, what if I give you 1 slice of pizza and you call it $1, and then I can use that dollar to get my groceries? And then Mark is going to be, well, that's great, let's do that. And then I tell Mary over there the same story, and John over there the same story. So when I run out of my 4 slices, now I don't give them the slice, I'm just promising I'm going to give them the slice. Okay? So they know I'm keeping the slice in my house. But anytime they want, they can come and get the slice from me. But now that I run out of these 4 slices, now what do? I only have 1 pizza. But because I'm a banker and I'm really smart, and I decided I need more money because I just want to spend more money. So I decide to find 4 other friends, and I'm going to tell them the same story I told Mark. Hey, I'm going to give you a slice of pizza. But knowing that I only have 1 pizza and I already gave up these 4 slices, what do? What I do is I slice those 4 slices and I turn them into 8 slices. Okay? So now I did right by Mark and Mary and John. I didn't cheat them out. Wink, wink. If they come for their slice of pizza, I'm going to give them a slice of pizza. I'm doing what I told them I was going to do. But now he's getting 1/8 of the pizza. And because I got lazy, because I figured out that I don't have to work, I can just convince people, because everybody loves pizza, and especially if it's US pizza, dollars, as opposed to peso pizza or bolivar pizza, everybody's going to take my US pizza. So now I figured it out. So these 8 slices of pizza, I turned them into 16, and then 32, and then 64, and then 128. So right now, we have, for 1 ounce of gold, we have $5.3 million printed of this paper. So every time the government prints this money,
Hold on. 1 ounce of gold, $5.3 million.
Yes. When Mark
Okay,
and I
so
talk, go ahead.
that's not a figure I've heard. I've watched Peter Schiff, Lynette Zane, Johnny Bravo. I'm an addict on YouTube. I watch all these guys, but I know Marco, and I'm telling you that if he says that number, it's accurate. It's probably the most accurate number of anybody on the planet. He does his homework.
Well,
He's addicted to homework. So
but yeah, that's my addiction. Everybody has
That's
one,
his
right?
1 ounce of gold to 5.3 million.
Yes.
That's
This
crazy.
is verifiable. I'm not making this up. You can Google it on the internet. I can send him the link where you can see, and I think it's usdebt.org. Many of you probably already went there. So what these analysts that he just mentioned do, because I'm aware of them, what they do is that they do their own calculations, and I'm not smarter than they are, but there's some methodology for what they do. And I understand that as a banker. I'm totally on board with them. I don't say they are wrong. But then I translate those numbers to Main Street, because I'm Main Street. I came from Main Street. He's Main Street. You're Main Street. So how does that translate? And when I put that in mainstream terms, if you go to that website, all you have to do is find the US debt, which is about 27 trillion and change, and then you find the amount of gold in reserve in the United States, not globally, but in the United States. And you take the 27 trillion and divide it by the ounces
Okay.
of gold, and that's how I
That
know
squares it. Yeah.
it's about $5.3 million. So is that number exact? Well, it's as close as we can get, because nobody really knows exactly how many of these are printed. There's ways to measure it. There's the MM1, the MMT, and all those indexes that tell us, but that's not what I'm here for. This is just a ballpark, and it's very close, 5.3 million per 1 ounce of gold. So that's the pizza that I'm talking about. That's why I explained the pizza thing, because now my pizza got sliced into 5.3 million slices. Am I cheating everybody? Well, technically no, but on Main Street,
If they knew their piece was microscopic,
yes,
that's one thing.
yes,
But they think it's a full slice.
they did. It is a slice, but
But they
there's
think
not,
it may be
yeah.
almost a full slice
Exactly.
because they're not that stupid.
But we don't see it, but we feel it, right? We know something is wrong with this thing. Why are we spending so much money and people are not getting back to work? Why do we have tax cuts, but the prices in the grocery market is going up? So it's this thing. So every time we print this, it dilutes the dollar, and this is what takes me to this next step, so we can start talking to Charles about gold and silver. So what happens is this. Here's where it gets confusing. Some people call this inflation, but it's not really inflation. It's easily mistaken. What is inflation? Inflation is the price of things going up. So we all went to school, and in high school, I think that's where we go over this, supply and demand. So if there's a low supply and less demand, things get cheaper. If there's less supply and more demand, things get expensive, because there's not as many things that everybody wants the same thing, but there's not as much of it.
To go around.
So the price tends to go higher because the seller can afford to.
Like my diamonds are in demand, but
His
we
diamonds
keep
are
the
in demand.
prices low
Exactly.
for you.
Exactly. So so the price of going up because of supply and demand, that's called inflation. But when the slice of pizza gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and if it takes a quarter of a pizza to buy, let's say this 5 ounce of silver, if it takes a quarter of a pizza, so that's the key. Does that mean it costs more money? No, the silver was a quarter of a pizza before, and it's still today a quarter of a pizza. It's just that my slice of pizza is no longer a quarter of a pizza. So I need to have more slices now a quarter of 5.3 trillion. What's a quarter of that? That's about 1.3 trillion.
Definitely ask.
So-
I don't know.
Yeah. You at home, do the math. Am I right? I knew it. Thank you. So about 1.3 trillion, 1.3 million slices of pizza is what now takes to make 1/4 of the old pizza, so I can trade it for this 5-ounce silver. So it gives us the impression that now I need more dollars to buy the same thing. So that's what is known as devaluation. The new word now is dilution. The fancy one is called fractional reserve monetary system. But let's just call it devaluation. So devaluation is not the same as inflation, but it's very often confused even by really smart Wall Street people. So just wanted you to know that, because that's the difference between the two, and they both result in a price increase. But is the price of eggs really going up, or is it that my dollars are getting diluted, so I need more dollars to buy the same egg that I used to? We lived through this in Mexico in the 80s heavily.
Mhm.
That was before the collapse. So when I was 10, 12 years old, or even 8 years old, I don't know, actually, yeah, since I was about 8 years old, I remember my mom would give me money and say, go and get a dozen of eggs at the corner store. And I would go, and they would tell me, you don't have enough money. So I would go back home and say, Mom, you gave me 8 pesos, and they say it's 10 pesos now. So she would get frustrated with me because I was a little kid, and she probably thought I didn't know what I was doing. So I remember this time she just took the money and went to the store, and when we got to the store, the sign said 15 pesos, like as in 15. Just in the time it took me to go back home and go back to the store, it had almost doubled. And then my mom got even more frustrated because she said, I thought you said 10 pesos. And I said, that's what that sign was. And then the store owner said, yeah, we just changed that because we just saw the market, the price went up. So to us, we thought price was going up. What my mom and I didn't understand is that the value of this was going down. So when they do the reset and they say 1,000 of these is now worth $1, that's when it hits us. Now, that's when we finally understand what happened. So how do we protect ourselves from that? Well, if we were to use $100 and come to Charles and say, Charles, give me, what can I buy in silver for $100? And he's probably gonna say
3 ounces, give or take.
3 coins of silver, 1 ounce silver coins. So if you spend this today, you're using today purchasing power to buy 3 coins of silver. So next week you wake up and we have the reset, which I call it the bankruptcy of the government or the country's bankruptcy. If you didn't buy the 3 coins, you'll come to Mark afterwards and say, Mark, what can I get with this? He's gonna say, you cannot even buy 1 gram of silver with this anymore, because now this is worth $100 will be worth, let's say, 10 cents. So I don't even have a small piece of silver to sell you for 10 cents. And that's how it happens. So how do you preserve your wealth? Is you convert currency into real money. So if this glass over here is the reset, when you go over the reset, you still have your silver. And then you can change it for $100 new on the other side of the fence. So this is how you preserve it. Now, whether or not, don't go crazy and spend all your money on silver and gold because you need some money to buy groceries. You cannot eat this, okay? So there are some advantages with silver and gold. Like let's say you don't have to pay personal property taxes like with your car, okay? So you buy this and you put it safely stored somewhere where nobody knows and just wait it out. So you need to think about what works for you and how much of your money you want to preserve. Diversification is a good idea, but I'm not talking about the diversification that financial advisors typically advise you of, which is basically mutual funds, stocks, bonds, yields, money markets, all that stuff. I'm talking about different categories of assets. So silver and gold, I put it in one set of assets. These are precious metals. These are precious metals. And then you have real estate. Like for instance, you made this store. So if you buy a store like this, like the building, you can rent it out. Or a small house and you can rent it out. There are risks with that as well, because if nobody pays you rent, then you still have to pay for that house. This one doesn't have that risk because you don't have to worry about a tenant. But there are different categories. So when I say there are different categories of assets, you need to see where is your fit. So if you don't want to worry about tenants, don't buy a building like this. Just buy some gold or some silver. Talk to Mark, and then keep it in a safe place. Some people are bigger risk takers, so they go deep into that, and some people buy less. Whatever works for you, you can do some of that today.
Marco, I think this is a good spot to
stop.
Put a pin
Okay.
on it. We will have more discussions. Are there any questions or any comments in there? Is anybody still awake, or did we lose everybody?
There was a comment from Justin Kirby that said it's cool hearing it from someone who lived through a collapse, which
Yeah.
is pretty neat.
It is.
Well, thank you.
That is.
Who was that?
Huge.
Justin Kirby.
Justin, thank you for your question, Justin. Yeah, I actually went through another one in Venezuela as well, and that's why I started recognizing the symptoms earlier, and that's how I ended up meeting Mark.
Yeah.
Charles.
We can. Everybody does it. It's fine. We can talk about so many of these things for 45. I think 45 minutes is a pretty good.
That was
ceiling.
45 minutes?
Yeah.
Almost.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's complicated. We need to be clear when we talk about it and make it easily to follow. I just say that question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Eric asked, in your opinion, how soon before the reset?
That's a really good question, and the basic answer is nobody really knows. What I can tell you is some analysts, and I don't agree with this analyst, they say that it happens slowly, like they let you down gently. In my experience, it hasn't been gently at all. You wake up and they tell you it's done, and you're done. So they usually do it when you're sleeping, and in the morning they just tell you it already happened. So it could be on the weekend, which is usually the way it happened. Both times for me happened on a Sunday night to Monday morning when everybody's watching the game. So don't try not to prepare in terms of time it. Try not to time it, because I don't think anybody can. I know I cannot time it. So I don't recommend to time it. What I recommend is see where you are today, figure out what you can do, and start doing a little bit at a time.
Let's try to say it like this: in the next 20 years,
Oh,
in the next 10 years, in the next 3 years.
well, I think it's gonna be in less than 3 years, or probably in that time frame, because the difference is that the whole world now is talking about it.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like it's gonna happen soon. I just cannot tell you exactly
In the
when.
next 3 to 5 years, or do you see it even going that far
Well,
without it?
let me put it this way: different countries are buying gold and silver. They're already trading without the dollar, like Russia and China. They're trading without the dollar. In the Middle East, Saudi Arabia and Iran, Iraq, those countries are trading without the dollar. They're bypassing the dollar. This is the reserve of the world. What that means is Mexico takes the peso, and if Mexico wants to buy something from Venezuela, Mexico has to send it through Wall Street in New York, convert it to dollars, and then from New York goes to Venezuela in bolivars. So Bolivar, like if I'm buying something in Venezuela and I have change, let's say I pay 100 bolivars and my change is 5 bolivars because the price was $95 or 95 bolivars. So they have to give me back 5 bolivars. So they have to send 5 bolivars to New York, and then New York sends it to Mexico in pesos. So this is the reserve of the world. This is what has made the dollar strong, because when the world feels scared of their governments, they run to find shelter somewhere, and they always trust the dollar. That's what has kept it strong, despite the fact that we had taken that pizza and sliced it by 5.3 million.
So the question is, how many more slices can we get out of what's left? It's microscopic, and definitely within 10 years.
Well, what I'm going to ask you is,
I'm saying 3, but I don't know nothing.
right. So what I'm going to ask you is to ask yourself a question. Now that you know these pizza slices are 5.3, now that you can do your own homework, Google it, try to find objective websites with solid information, because, and this is very important, if you listen to the right people, you're going to make right choices. If you listen to the wrong people, after the reset, you're toast.
Yeah,
So be careful who you listen to. That's why I talk to Charles.
Our point is to wake people up that are totally this isn't even on their radar. If we plug into YouTube, there's a lot of good content and information out there. See where logic you follow, what makes sense to you. And the more clued in we are, the more up to date we are, the more up to speed we are. As this thing gets closer and closer and closer, we might have a better chance of seeing it and being more prepared for it.
Yes, and especially with YouTube, I listen to the recent videos, because what was true 6 months ago
forget it.
is not true today.
Yeah.
I promise you that. Look at taxes, look at investment. What was true back then, that YouTuber was telling you the truth, but it was true back then. Today may not be true, so be careful. Now, to answer your question is, ask yourself, countries are trading without the dollar. They're buying gold and silver. The rich people, the true wealthy people and the rich people in the US are buying gold and silver. They're storing it in hidden places. They're even taking it out of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Some really smart people are even getting citizenships from other countries that they're eligible for. So they have dual citizenship, the US and other countries, in case they have to protect their families from a delusion, from a crash. So think in terms of, where am I today? Where do I need to be? And just start making small steps towards that at your own comfort level. But when I see everybody's already investing in different things, including silver and gold, not just silver and gold, but that's part of their plan, then I ask myself, maybe I should be doing that too. And I've been doing that for a while now, but in March is how I met him, because nobody was selling it. Right, Mark? Remember?
Yeah,
Nobody
that's
was
the only
selling it.
reason I was selling it is because we had just opened, pandemic, I couldn't work, and Marco looked like a pretty nice guy, and he had a lot of cash, so we kind of figured out a deal, and
I had a lot of
my house
pesos.
payment because I had gold. I mean, that's actually not a bad illustration,
Right.
to be honest.
So
with
that
you.
is the other thing. When it's unattainable, you don't want to go out in a panic trying to buy it when nobody's selling.
That's true too.
Okay? So don't wait when that happens, because that was March. Nobody was selling, and I was
I was
holding.
the guy that didn't go to business school. I was the only one selling it.
Yeah. No. You. So.
But are we,
Yeah.
any other comments or anything?
There is another question. Justin asked, what type of companies bounce back the fastest after a crash?
Good question.
That's another great question. Well, I'm gonna give you the short answer, and maybe we'll leave this for the next episode, because this is a deeper subject. Okay, think in terms of what people do when the market crashes. Now, this is not a market crash, but this is going to be a currency crash, so it's going to be similar. Well, people still have to eat, people still get sick, and people still need a place to live and get clothing. So does that mean your girl is going to go and buy a $2,000
Louis Vuitton bag?
Yeah, probably not.
Not mine.
Okay, probably not. So we're still going to need shoes, we're still going to need the basic necessities. Those are the ones that usually bounce back. And also, I'm going to leave you with a little peace of mind for those people who are worried about this. you probably haven't asked it or maybe have not thought about this. Your income really doesn't change. So if you have a job, please do not worry, your income doesn't change, because if your income is $1,000, I'm just making a number, $1,000 a week. After the reset, you're gonna have $1,000 new dollars a week. So people who have, the poorest people who have no money in the bank, they don't feel a reset. For them, nothing changes. So that's, if some of you have no money right now or are broke, then
If you're paycheck to paycheck with no assets,
nothing really is gonna change for you, not much, okay?
be a little bump, but you'll
Right.
recover quicker.
Right, and reset really is gonna hurt those people who have savings, 401ks, IRS, money in the stock market, anything that is attached to the dollar, life insurance. It's not that you're gonna lose your money is still gonna be there, it's just gonna be all dollars. So if you have a life insurance for $500,000, that's meaning the cash value of it, you're still gonna have it, it's just that it's gonna be worth 500 new dollars, that's all. The
But
FBA,
the premium's gonna be in new dollars.
yes. So basically it's a reset, that's why they call it a reset now. I call it a bankruptcy because in a bankruptcy, the court wipes out your savings to offset your debt. So it's really not different for a country, it's really that simple. It's just that they use fancy words.
So is there any more questions? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and end it here. We ran a little bit long, we thought 45 minutes, but we had some questions.
And if you're watching this video after tonight, obviously it's not live anymore, write down your questions at the bottom and Mark will forward them to me so I can do my best, we can combine together, do our best to talk to you about how to find a reputable dealer like him, how do we know this is good silver, and what kind of coin should we be buying? All the stuff that I really didn't know, that God puts people in your path when you need them, you find them. And the very day I met him, we were like best friends. We spoke for hours here. Because and he's such a giving guy. He educated me on what coins not to buy, what coins to buy, and why.
Buy my coins.
Yeah, look, of course, he sells them. Full disclosure.
But let me
I
say
didn't know
this,
that.
Marco's been very generous and gracious, but I used to be a traveling jewelry salesman. That means I spent a lot of time in my car listening to a lot of talk radio, an unhealthy amount. Every book I've read, the Demographic Cliff by Harry Dent, everything that I could even mention, he's already owned it, read it, did reports on it.
I'm a nerd.
I mean, there was nothing. And this is stuff nobody knows. So that's when I knew he was for real. And I knew that he definitely knows more than I do. And that's what I need to surround myself with. Appreciate your time, appreciate your patience. I know we went long, and we'll be back. Maybe not next week. We might lighten it up and talk about jewelry again, maybe ring sizing or something fun. And but that's it. So,
Alrighty, and if you guys have any questions or comments after you see this video live, please put them in the comments below, and we'll try to answer them in the next week. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you much.